just how good you think this team is overall. I think, conversations with you and looking at Georgia this week, um, obviously, I remember a few weeks ago watching them get that win at Tennessee, and thinking that was really impressive and wondering whether they were the best team in the SEC. Now losing to Alabama is not necessarily a poor indictment of your season. Like Alabama looks to be really good, but it just doesn't look like. And you can correct me on either side of the ball, but the dominance we've come to expect from Georgia. Now, I think when you look at college football overall, you look at the top programs. I think that's an unfair thing that people say pretty often when you look at a team like, oh, Ohio State's not as explosive as we're used to on offense, or oh, Georgia's not as dominant on defense. I think that's kind of unfair when people say that because you cannot expect that to continue. What, Georgia have 11 first-round picks in the last 3 years or something to that effect on defense? You can't expect it to be the same over and over and over and over again. But you mentioned it in our Q&A that's going to be posted tomorrow. Like Georgia has been, taking a little bit of a step back on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm just curious, kind of what your take has been so far in this season and whether their record and what they've shown on the field has surprised you so far, or whether you're just like, yeah, we kind of knew this team would take a step back and it's kind of just about where they go from here.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the defense, and I think we kind of got we made a little too much. I think of the first 2 weeks when you play a Marshall, you play Austin P, and the defense was lights out, but you'd expect them to play really well. And I think this defense is not quite as good as we expected. And the two areas in particular, defensive line, they've really struggled getting a pass rush. Didn't really do a great job of that against Tennessee. But really didn't do that against Alabama. I mean, Ty Simpson just had all day, and credit to Ty Simpson. I mean, he did a good job of taking advantage, and Georgia played a lot of zone in the first half of that game. He just picked it apart. And when you give a quarterback with that kind of talent, that amount of time, I mean, it's just not going to work out for you. And the secondary has been very iffy. Struggled against Tennessee, gave up a lot of explosive plays. Several of them wound up being touchdowns. Didn't play great against Alabama, though I thought the Tennessee performance was really the one that kind of got all of our attention. And I wanted to make the point too, Nathan. You talked about what they've lost to the NFL and trying to retool every year and regroup. The draft does matter. Georgia lost three first rounders from last year's defense. I kind of think it's as much too about the transfer portal and guys that traditionally would have waited in the wings for a year, 2 years, and then get that opportunity. A lot of those guys aren't at Georgia anymore, and it's not really a Georgia specific thing. I mean, you see the depth in the SEC alone. Guys transferring, getting opportunities to play elsewhere. I look at a guy like Damon Wilson, who had been at Georgia, is at Missouri now, and if I'm not mistaken, he's got like as many quarterback pressures so far this season at Missouri as the entire Georgia defense. I think it's a situation where Georgia, at the height of its powers with Kirby Smart, they just stacked depth. And if those guys didn't play right away, it wasn't an issue. Those guys were going to wait their turn. They've got opportunities now where they can leave and they can go shine elsewhere and get opportunity. I think you're seeing it with this defense. I say all that to say I still think this is a Georgia team that can make the playoff, can still be in that hunt. But I think the defense has to step up. And more than anything, they just need guys on defense to rise to the occasion, to make more plays. Guys that we know are talented, they have to be more productive going forward.